Hello, I have a couple short stories to tell to you about the way plants grow on Earth and how they grow because of the light and the water they receive and where they're located on Earth. I have a chart that I want to share with you. It looks like a map of the world. That's because it is. We have North America over here and South America down here, Australia, Africa, Europe, and Asia across this side. And usually this map is drawn a different way. Usually we're seeing North America and South America on the left and it works across. This one is just the same. It's just a map. It doesn't really matter where we start looking because maps are just a representation of the globe. And so we could unfold the globe in any way we want to. This is just how this map is showing it. Okay, so this line right here is the equator. It's the halfway point across our globe. And when we look at a globe like this, the equator is this line right here. And we often talk about the equator because it splits the Earth in half. Splits the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere. Now this map, you might be saying, gosh, it looks like there's a lot more north than there is south. That's just because this map isn't drawn to scale. And also we don't see Antarctica or anything down at the bottom. And so you'll just have to follow along as I show with my fingers where each of the zones that we're talking about are located. First, we're going to talk about this video. We're going to talk about this band of land that's right here near the equator, above the equator and below the equator. Sometimes we call this area the tropics. This time we're going to call it's called the tropics, but we're going to call it the Torrid Zone. Now the Torrid Zone is an interesting place. The Torrid Zone has sunlight shining directly on it all year long. And when the sun's rays are perpendicular to the equator, we know that that's that one of the equinoxes, either the summer or spring equinox or the fall equinox. And so the rays of the sun are perpendicular in this band all year round. And so it's hot all year round. They have sunshine overhead all day, all year. And so this area gets a lot of heat. Now there's places in this band that get a lot of rainfall. And so think about that. They're very hot and they're very wet. They have a lot of rain. And so when plants live in a place where it's very warm and very wet, the plants can grow very big. And so areas like this with this dark green are called rainforests. And you see there's lots of that dark green right here in this band. Those dark green places are rainforests. Now, rainforests have a lot of water, a lot of heat, so they have lots of plants. What they end up not having a lot of at the ground level is sunshine, because the plants are growing so big that they're growing over the top of each other. And so you get this beautiful layered forest, but the things at the bottom are getting shaded. And so the competition is then what can grow taller and reach to the sun. And so you get very big leafed plants, you get very tall plants in a rainforest. And in this same band, there are areas that don't get very much rain at all. And they're very hot for most of the year, but they're also very dry. And so we get things like this sandy yellow. Let me go into a bigger screen so you can see that. Okay, you can see this yellow dotted area that's right through here. Those are deserts. Those are places that have a lot of heat, a lot of sunshine, but very little rain. And so plants that live there have a very tough time. Plants that grow in heat but little water have to find ways to conserve water and keep water within them. And so you see things like cactuses, and those plants, when they are making their food, they're not making food in big leaves. They're making their food in their stems, and their stem is where the food factory is, and that's where they store their water. And on those types of plants, the leaves look very different. In fact, the leaves often look like spines or pointy, pokey pieces, but those are the leaves. This light green area is called the Torrid Grassland. Now, in the Torrid Grassland, there is a little bit of rain. There's a lot of heat, but there's a little bit of rain. And when the rain falls, it allows things like grasses and shrubs to grow, but not big trees, not like we would see in the rainforests. And so this area gets a little bit of rain, just enough to grow grasses, but not enough to grow big forests. So these places on this, in this torrid zone, grow different types of plants depending on how much water they have. They all have lots of sunshine, they all have lots of heat, but depending on how much rain falls, it changes the way the plants grow. If there's a lot of rain, then the plants can grow very large and can compete with each other for the sunshine, and we get rainforests. And in the places where very, very little rain falls, but it's still very hot, we get deserts. And the kind of plants there have to conserve their water, and they have to protect themselves from being eaten by animals who want to get into their water. And so they have things like cactuses and things that conserve water. And then in places where a little bit of rain falls, but it dries quickly because it's so hot, those places are grasslands. And we can think of that if you've ever watched any shows about wildlife in Africa and they talk about the savanna. The savanna grasslands grow small shrubs and small grass because of that little bit of rain they get. They get just enough to grow some grass. I hope you enjoyed this story of the torrid zone, this zone right here by the equator. And next time we're going to talk about the zone we live in. I can't wait to see you next time. Thanks, everyone.